Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy Monday. For a few of you, it's a happy Monday. I am very grateful to be here and share some thoughts with you. It's a little bit of history. It's a little bit of outlook as well. And it's a lot of questions. So, Elias, where is the paradigm? Where do you have your paradigm?
My paradigm?
Yes.
It's in the nexus of knowledge, innovation, and what we call in Finland collective stubborn individualism.
So it's in the stubborn individuals?
Yes.
Perhaps. But Martin, where is your paradigm?
Well, I'm trying to chase it.
Yes, exactly. It's in your PFC. And in the same way as Elias was saying, I will come back to the PFC later on if you're interested. It's in your PFC, and it's a part of this picture. And I will share with you some more pictures, so you have to find out. It's a little bit of quizzics. Knowledge creation is done by good, inspiring, energizing questions. It creates these new synapses, and they will stay forever in your brain until you get Alzheimer.
Professor?
Yes.
What is PFC?
Later on. So if you are going to apply for a job in IKEA, it might look like this. It's about the paradigm. What are you going to produce? Will it be a chair? Will it be something else? It depends on what you have in your PFC or the drawing. So I'm also nowadays, besides being a professor in Hong Kong, so we can talk a lot about China, I'm also chairman for the New Club of Paris, and Bror and Hank Kuhn and some others in this room are members. We can talk about your interest to become pioneers in the New Club of Paris later on if you're interested. It's about building the new agenda for the future. And the knowledge agenda, perhaps, there might be other labels for it, but we need actually to break the glass ceiling of moving out into something else, and it's not innovation. It goes beyond innovation. So I will share with you some thoughts going back. Copernicus, he was launching a new paradigm. What happened to him? He was banned until 1815 for his innovative thinking on putting the Earth outside and the sun in the middle. So therefore, it is dangerous to be an innovator. And only 3% in this room are prepared to be innovators. Only 3% in this community. 97% don't have the courage to move into the future. So how do you organize to reduce the fear? And a part of Copernicus learning is also image. We need an image. If you think about this image, to most people it immediately connect to something. So therefore an image, visualization becomes extremely important for the future, because we are moving into the soft normization, and the soft normization has to be given some kind of image. And therefore, it's fascinating to see if you have an image like the one of IKEA, and you all laughed, and it created an aha, and then the oxytocin in the brain created that kind of enjoyment. And it will stay until the next picture. So if we test the idea, if you look at this, what is this? I know that perhaps some of you have seen it. It's a statue outside Durban in South Africa. What does it show? I know that Leonard knows it, but you're not allowed to say it. I want to test some others of you. So this is the mess you see right now in Europe. Look at this. You just changed the perspective a little bit. It's the same picture, 50 poles, and this is the statue. Remarkable. If in one position you see the aha. So you have to go to that place to see the aha and enjoy it. And therefore, the big data is going to create even more confusion. We need to learn to see the picture and learn to use the PFC and other dimensions. I started to work on this in many, many years ago. Next year, it's 20 years ago since we were gathering in north of Silicon Valley, in Mill Valley, as paradigm pioneers. How many of you in this room are paradigm pioneers? And what does it take to be a paradigm pioneer? I wanted to challenge the accounting system, and to some degree I managed. And I think it's very interesting to connect to the story that you're presenting here, as well as in some of the experimentations we heard about earlier this morning, that the process dimension in this taxonomy is extremely important. The other part is innovation capital. And you can actually start to measure it, but it goes way beyond input-output thinking. The input-output thinking is 300 years old. To some extent, it's 600 years old. So we need actually to think out of the box in that way. Input-output should be replaced by input-impact. So you have to start to look for the impact, and the impact is actually the opportunity cost of not doing anything. So therefore, it takes a total new thinking to look at how do you monetize the opportunity cost of not doing anything. And this is the taxonomy I developed some 20 years ago. Today you can summarize it and say that we have to move from, as we heard in one of the media messages, the most important asset is the human being. It might be, probably not. The most important is the structural capital, which is there when you are dead, when you're gone, when you have left, when you're gone home, when you're sleeping. So the multiplier effect of value creation comes not from the human being, it comes from the structural capital. And the structural capital is then multiplied by the relational capital. And here comes the Chinese dimensions to it. Knowledge in US and knowledge in most part of Europe is an object. Knowledge in Asia is a relationship. Think about that. The relationship, relational capital, as well as the structural capital, like in the case of Spotify. So you can actually go from the concert and all the very good musicians and multiply the skill and the enjoyment and the experience by having a clever organizational system for the structural capital and relational capital. So then you can take that up to the next level. I have a number of booklets coming out about the intellectual capital of countries or clusters of countries, like the pigs, as you said, and some of the other countries. And there is something to observe when you look into this. And it might look like this. This is a part of it. You get a position where you can see that Europe is in the middle of this. Lower left is the Asian countries, and top right is the Nordic countries. And the Nordic countries has a context for innovation that is extremely interesting to observe. And I think we could learn a lot from that. It takes roughly 10 to 15 years from the lower left cluster to the second cluster, and the mid cluster up to the right cluster. You can download this from nick40.org. You can find out much more. We have 48 countries, 48 indicators, and 17 years of trajectories. So the trajectory leads to a new landscape. And there you can think about it in 3 dimensions. Like Elias was ending with talking about, we need to move into a new 3-dimensional thinking. And this is extremely challenging, to think in 3 dimensions, not only in plane dimensions. And the economics is totally crazy in that sense. Because the more you put into money into innovation, you expect to get more out of it. On the contrary, you are ruining the balance sheet of an enterprise. Put more money into education, you ruin the balance sheet. So therefore, you have actually to find a new landscape. And the landscape might look like this if you see it over 17 years. And you see, for example, Sweden is moving up, but not forward. Why not? Political failure. So the political leadership of moving across the borders becomes extremely important. I call that societal innovation. And that's why we need a pentahelix or whatever it might be called. Singapore has a pretty interesting line. Norway has an interesting line. But the challenge for us as a leader is actually how do you upgrade quicker and accelerate? Can we allow to our grandkids to wait 15 years? And what's happening during these 15 years, if you don't do it quick enough, others are bypassing you. So therefore, Europe has really to look into, as we heard from some other presentation, to the alliances of intellectual capital. We have to form clusters across borders, across cultures, across generations. And I'm very impressed by the work of Marco Marcola. You are talking about the need for integrate top research to practice, and the value creation does actually take place outside the labs, as we have heard. It's in the impact of the lab. So I'm sitting on the board of something called Center for Molecular Medicine, and we have gone from a startup to top leader in 12 years. And the extremely interesting experience that science is one of those black boxes for the future of Europe. We don't have a grip on how to create value out of science. And the scientists are struggling with getting money. So they spend more time on writing applications for money than doing innovation or scientific work. So we are heading for an ecosystem, not for best practice, but best option. Think about that. And this is the soft normization. It's invisible. You have to train your eyes to see where is the soft value, and how do you put some figures to it. And what's the value of your brain, Martin?
I'll plead the fifth on that.
I think what's the weight of your brain?
That I don't know.
Well, we heard it earlier. It's roughly around 1 kilo. Yes.
Martin's 1.5.
But what's the size of your shoes?
Oh, 43 or 9.5 if you're thinking UK.
Very good. So you know more about your shoes than your brain.
Oh, yeah. Okay, get them off. Get them off.
So we need to have a new theory for the organizational system. And I'm very impressed by this report from the OISPG group. So there's a lot of brain power in the group. And this is one of the very good ones from the team of Bror and you. And I think we're heading for something that could be illustrated by this. At Karolinska Institute, we are heading for a new campus area. And the traditional architectural paradigm is to look at the buildings. But the challenge is to look for the in-between space. Who's in charge of the in-between spaces in the future of Dublin? Do you have someone who is director or experiential leader, or experience lead, as we saw in one of the slides, for the in-between spaces? And that is a totally new function in city and urban planning, which we are working with. And furthermore, we saw that Dublin had a very interesting presentation. This is already happening in Stellenbosch. If you go to most advanced areas in Africa, it's free Wi-Fi. If you go to Charles de Gaulle and go into the business suite there and try to use Skype, it's blocked by France Telecom. Isn't that a paradox? And in Stellenbosch, it's free. And this is an interesting illustration of the future of universities. It's a hole in the wall. It's rapidly growing, and it's spiced by grandmas from Ireland and other places in Europe to the kids in India through the connectivity. But I do think we need not only connectivity, we need contactivity. Contactivity, where you connect the hearts, not only the brains. And this is a challenge. How do you get the senses into it? And Mitra got a prize called Leonardo Award in the fall, very interesting. And to move through the glass wall and move into the future, together with Marco Marcola and the Aalto University, we started to prototype a camp for societal innovation. And this camp is now being replicated for the 4th time in Malmö, together with Lennart Svensson and his colleagues. And it's the first camp in the world where you're combining politicians and others into living the pentahelix model. And I think it's very interesting to ask the question, where do you find the society developers of tomorrow? Are the society developers the youngsters on the beach here? Is it the seniors, or is it in the sport fields? But the big question, where are the paradigm pioneers of tomorrow? I do think it's in this unlimited potential. And it's also called silver potentials. Look at the color of my mustache, and then you realize it's in the silver potential of the color of Martin's hair as well, not your shoes. So therefore, we have been prototyping this in Namibia as a kind of prototyping week. We have been summarizing this into this very simple slide. Multiply the human capital with the structural capital, and you find the imaginate area, the space of imagination. And this is the open innovation 2.0. And final question. Martin, what is this?
No, I'm not listening even anymore.
So I asked Broder, sitting next to you, what is this?
Well, for me, inspirational picture.
Yes, it's very inspirational. It's something called mandala. The stem cell of stem cells. It could be anything. It's only 5 days old. And it could be a monkey, or it could be next generation of Martin. Yes. So mandala, this is where the future is. So the future is about images, as I said. It's about dynamic navigation, and it's about organic ecosystem. And with that, I wish you a happy future. Thank you very much.